Today's video is a beginner's tutorial for making candles. It's part 2 of a series, and I'm going to show you 3 different ways to make candles for personal use or for gifts. The items on the left are items that you'll probably have to buy. The items on the right are things that you might already own. Most of my supplies I purchased from Amazon, but the fragrances came from Candle Science, and I'll put a link down below. I chose to use soy wax because it's a natural wax. It burns cleaner and burns more slowly than paraffin. And for all the candles today, we're going to use 1 pound of wax to 1 ounce of fragrance. I put my measuring cup on the scale, hit the tare button, and then I measured out 1 pound of wax. I was using a 5-pound bag of wax.
All the places, I hope it means that you'll come home to me. Once you've traveled the world, all the spaces inside your heart.
You can see here that 1 pound of wax really reduces down, so I was able to add another pound of wax. You can see here that the temperature of the wax is almost 150, and we're trying to get the wax to 185 before we add the fragrance. While I was waiting for the wax to get to the right temperature, I put all of the wicks in each of the containers. I used a wick sticker, and I purchased wicks that were already made up. I used a little stick to make sure that that sticker was sticking to the bottom of the container. The directions I was following for making candles said that I should have the wax over a slow simmer, but I could not get the temperature up to 185, so I had to crank up the heat to get it to 185. I didn't have anything that would measure only 1 ounce, but I had a little cup that was 20 cc's, so I had to ask Alexa how many cc's were in an ounce, and there's 30. So I had to fill my little cup 3 times to get 60 cc's for 2 pounds of wax. My little cup was really a scoop from some protein powder. That's why it was in cc's. Cc's is for solids, ml is for liquids, but they're the same measurement. The first fragrance I used was grapefruit and mango, and it smelled so good. And you want to gently stir for 2 minutes to make sure that that fragrance gets all mixed in with the wax. That helps your candle to have a good hot throw. That's the fragrance you smell when your candle is lit. Once you've stirred it for 2 minutes, you can then take it off the heat. And once the temperature goes down to 135, you can pour it into the containers or the vessels. You want to have your containers in a spot where you're not going to have to move them after you pour the wax, so they can sit there for 24 hours while the wax hardens up. Soy wax does take longer to harden than paraffin wax, so if you can let it cure for 7 to 10 days, that would be best. Here I'm using a wick centering tool to hold the wick in the center while the wax hardens, but I only had 2. So for the other one, I just took a little stick and wrapped the wick around it, but you can also do this. For the next candle, I used Dollar Tree candles, and I tried to keep the supplies as simple as possible. I melted down the candles in some hot water, and then poured the melted wax into a large can that I used for the double boiler. And everything was just the same. I brought the temperature of the wax up to 185. I poured in my fragrance, and this time I used Macintosh apple, and it smells just like fall. Stirred it for 2 minutes, then I let it cool to 135 and poured it into the containers. And then I had my first problem. I pulled the wick out. So I just dumped the candle wax back into the big can, tried to quickly do the wicks on all the other candles. I scraped out the wax, put in a new wick and wick sticker, and started over. And this time I used craft sticks to hold the wick in place. And here's all the candles I made using a 5-pound bag of soy wax and 4 Dollar Tree candles. Oops, I forgot, one's missing. Someone already took one of the candles, and they said it smelled awesome. But I wanted to show you this candle. This is an example of a wick being too small for the container. You can see the wax around the edges is not melting. So you can always double wick a container if it's over 3 inches. And it would look like this. Candle making is a lot of fun. It might even be addicting. My house smelled so good while I was making these candles. And you'll notice that I didn't even get to these pillar candles yet. I decided they would be best for my next video. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.